We're gonna go ahead and call the office board meeting to order. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, good evening, everybody. Nice cool day out there today. See that there's nobody online to speak to the board. We'll skip the public forum sign up and the visitor guest books. Is there any announcements? No. Okay. We are thrilled to have a new student rep this year. This is Noelia. She unfortunately wasn't able to join us last month, but is here this month, and so we are going to have her take the student rep oath to office. So you have okay, so go ahead and stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Noelia Morales, will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States, the state of Oregon, and the laws thereof, and the policy of the Mount Angel School District, and will discharge the duties of student representative on the board to the best of my ability. Okay. Thank you. We're thrilled to have you as part of our team and look forward to working with you for the rest of the school year. I hear that you were able to have your first meeting with Superintendent Harlan.
Yeah.
So things are off to a great start already. Yep, great start.
And Noelia, what year are you?
I'm an incoming senior.
That's exciting.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our agenda. Is there anything we would like to add or change, or if not, let's accept a motion to approve the agenda as is.
I so move.
Move, seconded and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is accepted as is. All right, consent items. Looking over our school policy, board policies, second readings are in there from last month, as well as the grants. Anything that you see that needs to be pulled from these first ones? If nothing you'd like to change, I would accept the motion.
I'm ready to approve the consent items as presented.
Motion. And seconded. No discussion, so all in favor? Aye. This is unanimously. All right, we're not seeing any licensed or classified representatives present, so we're going to move on to the budget report. This is Record.
All right. Do you guys want me to share? I sent over two reports for each year. Do you want me to go over both years?
You could just maybe give like a
Okay.
summarization of the last year and kind of where you're seeing maybe different changes, allocating more money.
Okay, so these first two are the preliminary numbers I sent to audit last week. There's always some journal entries and stuff that needs to be done, like if you had money left over on a grant or vice versa, things like that. And so there was a little bit of a change, not much. Our total revenue for the month was $96,382. So again, there wasn't anything different. You will see there's a negative amount under 4,500 and then a positive amount in $11,552 in the state. That was just a grant that got recorded incorrectly. So it was supposed to be a state grant and got recorded as a federal grant. Any questions on that part up there on the revenue part? Okay. And then expenditures, total expenditures was a little less than 1.8 million. I don't remember off the top of my head. I could look and see. I know the difference wasn't much between last year or excuse me, last month and this month. So what I'm sending forward is a ending fund balance of a little less than 2.5 million, and I kind of broke that out when we go and look at next year's some ideas in terms of what we want to do for savings. Any questions at all on this one? Okay.
Great job.
And then lunch fund, there was no changes, I believe, on this one. That's pretty cut and dry. It's its own fund and there's not a lot of things that happen in that. So we did end up with a positive fund balance of a little less than 30,000 for the year. So that was exciting. We also got another quarterly payment. You'll see that in the next report, but we got another quarterly payment from the CEPI, which is really awesome. So any questions on this one? All right. So we're scheduled to have our field audit in October. So they're just collecting all this information, and these are the final numbers that we sent them. Okay, so here is general fund for July. And because, obviously it's early in the year, once we hit September, then I'll have more accurate, oh, why did it do that? I must not have opened it big enough. I'm gonna pull up my other report so you guys can see without the hashtags. So just a second. I did an estimate of what I think the monthly salaries and benefits will be, because that's obviously our biggest expenditures for sorry, I can't do two things at once. For the rest of the year. Once we hit September and we see what a full payroll looks like, then that might get adjusted a little bit. How do I? Sorry, guys.
You're okay.
They have reports too, though.
Well, I know, but I just don't, you just don't get to see those numbers.
Ours have the hash.
They do?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'll send you guys updated ones. Cause,
Oh, there's
There's due.
Oh, sorry, okay.
yeah. Sorry, I didn't catch that. Okay, so going back, revenue is, we do get a double payment for state school fund. So that is in there for this month. And taxes is usually pretty light this year or this time of year. So total revenue without including the beginning fund balance is like about 1.5 million. Total with the beginning fund balance is a little over 4 million. And then I just estimated out state school fund based on what we're projecting to get right now through the rest of the year. And then for salaries and benefits, again, this is just a short or a smaller pool of people, so that's why it's lower. But you can see how I estimated for the rest of the year and trended out to about 100%. Because we know that for the most part, salaries are usually about 100%. Benefits could be a little less, but usually salaries are at that point. So total expenditures is a little less than 450,000. So what I did is I put in what we had said. Well, let me see here. Is this not the same one that I sent you guys? I'm sorry. Thought I put some notes. Oh, right there. I did some different calculations in terms of contingency and what that would look like with our ending fund balance. So if we were to do, so right now our ending fund balance is a little over 1.6. If we were to put 7% of our general fund expenditures, which is 876,000 aside for our ending fund balance, so that's in above our normal contingency, we would have an ending fund balance of a little over $1 million. And then again, what my goal is to get us closer to the 10% of general fund expenditures. So that would be a little over 1.2, and that would give us an ending fund balance of 711,000. So I just wanted you guys to see, that's the goal, is to start moving more money into contingency and relying like on that part, not just always balancing and budgeting to ending fund balance. So that was the point of this. And so I'll keep doing that as we get closer, as the year goes on, so we can kind of see and plan for next year. Because between contingency and our, which is 4%, and then our unappropriated fund balance, we're real close to that 800,000. It's just not included in this sheet. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I will send you guys out a new sheet that doesn't have a hashtags all over that. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. But that's kind of where we're going for here is working towards keeping those two areas separate. So you can see, if you look on this far, where it says 336,449, that's the unappropriated fund balance. That's what we have set aside. And then that 806,000, that's our budgeted amount. That's that 336 plus our 4%. And it's really close to that 7% total of savings. And anyhow, that's where those numbers are coming from. But it's showing 1.6 because we're not including the 4% that budget, or excuse me, board policy requires us to put aside. So, any questions on that?
Not on that, but I do have another question on budget.
Okay.
Being the second year of the passage of the ability to claim unemployment
Mm-hmm.
for some of our employees during summer, is that impacting the district that much at all? Or has it impacted more this year than last? What's the trend?
We do have more this year than last year. It's definitely not the impact for us like it is for other districts. So,
Thank you for that information.
and we are not a self-paying unemployment customer. We have a pool of money that we pay into, and then the benefits are paid out of that pool. And then so we pay a rate on our payroll every single or all of our payroll pay percentage. Right now, we currently have the lowest rate possible, which means we've been doing really good on unemployment. But as things change, that rate could go up, but we do have a healthy balance in there right now. And so, I don't see our rate increasing in the next year, but they can do mid-year rates changes. But yeah, so the money comes out of that pool, which is nice. Any other questions on this one? Okay, and then the last, I gotta stop this one. And then the lunch fund is not as exciting this time of year. I get rid of this stupid. It's so hot in here, my brain's not thinking correctly. That's what we'll blame it on. Okay, is that it right there? Yes. Where's it at, Jill? Okay. Okay, so beginning fund balance, you can see that reflected in there. Summer food program just for the first month was $7,200. And then our federal reimbursement is the 16,305. And then our quarterly payment must have come in August because it's not reflected in here. And then total expenditures is pretty small for this time of year. So right now we're trending at a month-end fund balance of about 15,000. So not much to report with that, but.
Was our lunch program like on pace to be better? Worse?
I mean,
Not
so
as we do here?
the initial payment was bigger than what we received last year. But honestly, I have not, Stacy's I think back tomorrow. I have not heard how it's performing.
I've been there on Mondays.
Yeah,
That's what I've been.
yeah,
And so I have 9 grandkids that come in, but, it's not full, but it's an average amount of kids. maybe at the most when I've been there is maybe, and that's why, we're usually there by 11:45-ish, so 30 to 40 kids, but then. So,
I
Yeah.
was wondering, maybe the change in the location.
I do think that might have affected it a little, just because people are used to there, they have, the playground that they would go play afterwards. People that would be doing things in town would go straight, it was just like kind of part of their route, and not that it's like far away, but it's kind of in the opposite corner of what
yeah.
a lot
yeah,
of people are congregating, but I mean, I definitely see people on Thursdays leaving with the bags of food, so. I do think that it's doing good, but maybe not as good as before, but I can definitely find out and let you guys know
It was just a general idea if
if that affected it. Yeah,
When I went down to visit and check, Annie had told me, one of the things she had said was that, oh, I asked how it was going, she said good, but she did say that there were fewer this year
Yeah.
than there have been in past years, and they wondered if it was the change in location, just,
Probably.
yeah, so I anticipate that it will be less. But the question will be by how much, but.
all right, yeah, I'll send you out the updated report, and I apologize for my technical difficulties.
No, you're fine, you're fine. Thank you so much for that report. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Okay. Board chair, members of the board, we have two kind of items tonight for the superintendent's report. The first are AP test results, and so we have Principal Brendan here to answer questions, and because this is like her data from her school, and I know they're super proud of it because it reflects some hard work in getting access for kids. And then the second one is just an update on the bond. And so.
Sorry, now I'm having technical
It's
difficulties.
okay, I think there's a little bit of a delay from when we all click before it shows up.
Coming up in my.
I'm gonna go ahead and then as we, look, it's almost like that was.
I just needed
the
you to say
magic.
that.
We'll
Yeah.
just get started and then we'll catch up on the slides, but. Okay, so. The first bit of information will be just the tests that were taken, the AP tests that were taken. And so the total number of tests were almost the equivalent of 25% of the school population. So the number of tests, I think, was around 48. And this is the breakdown of the grades that took those tests. You'll see the majority is in 11th grade, and that makes sense in terms of the courses that are offered and what that looks like. But a healthy chunk of 10th, 11th, and 12th grade taking AP tests. The next bit of data that you'll see are those tests by subject. So what are the subjects that kids are taking? There are some ones like AP US History, which are typical that you would expect to see. I loved to also see that we had Spanish, physics, computers. Like, I appreciated that there were several different ones and that there was a healthy percentage of those as well. In terms of the scores, so if those are the tests and the grade levels that are generally being taken, what does this look like? So a score of 3 or above is passing, and that often will equate to college credits for students, depending on what their score was, and of course, where they're going to school or college. But of the tests that were taken, there's their scores, 1, 2, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Super proud to see the 3s and 4s, and it's over half. The 5s are always incredible. To me, that's a very, very, very difficult to do. And so my hats off, and actually hats off to all of the kids who took the test and tried, because I think it's important. So those are our scores overall. And then when we dig a little bit deeper into those scores, go ahead and head to the next slide. So these are the passing scores as it breaks down by grade level. So of the students who scored a 3 or higher, what grades did they represent? And so one of the things that I think is really interesting although tenth grade took the majority of the tests, sorry, excuse me, 11th grade took the majority of the tests, 10th grade, you know,
Yeah.
passed at a higher, right? At the same percentage, having had fewer tests. So, I think it's always interesting, but this is what it looks like, passing scores by grade level. And then the last is the passing scores by subject. So when you compare, you know, the percent of tests taken, what subjects were those? Well, now here are the ones that had passing scores. So it's really interesting. 20% of the tests taken were Spanish, but that accounts for 35% of the passing scores. So I think that's always an interesting one to look at as well.
That's where the 2 5s were also.
Oh, really? I mean, it's just, that's so difficult. So that's just really, really impressive. And I know it was, you'll back up one for me, Joe. And I just know it represents a lot of work on the part of the teachers and on the part of the students. They're not easy exams, prepping for them, making sure students have the material for those to be successful. None of that is easy. So I think that reflects a lot of hard work on the part of teachers and students.
Can I ask a couple questions? Because AP was after I got out and I haven't had a kid go through yet, so I'm sorry, these are obvious answers. What is this AP Euro? What is,
AP European history.
okay, European history, thank you. And then I see a ninth grader, or at least one, took it. Is that a very unusual? Or
I'm
is
2
that,
years into this and 1 year looking, actually digging into the
Right.
data. So I would say, yes, it is pretty unusual at our school for a student who is a freshman to be even in an AP course. We do have an AP course this year specifically for freshmen. We're really excited to get it going because it turns out
can I ask what that course is?
AP World Studies.
Okay. And how do kids get into that? They just.
They
work out?
test for
Okay,
it, yep, and it's full.
That's awesome.
I don't know if it's full, but
But,
it's
yeah.
hefty. I mean, there's a lot of students taking it. It's great. I'm just so excited.
Thank you for that information.
Yeah, we'll also have AP psychology in next year's scores. That's an every other year course. So
So I have a question. So looking at the 12th graders, is there a way to then see how many of those kids who passed decided to are college bound? Or, you know, just like looking to see, I was just kind of thinking the rate of kids that are college bound kids or how that works.
I'll work on it.
I'm glad to see this. This is wonderful. I mean, it's absolutely wonderful news and it's really positive news. I was just kind of wondering, or maybe looking, you don't have to look at the 12th graders, maybe you could look at the 11th graders and then see how many will continue on and then go to, you know.
Mhm. I was happy to see the amount of tests taken and the variety, right? In a school district of our size, it might be common to see an offering or, you know, 1 or 2 subjects of AP tests that were taken or being offered. I think it's a testament to really to staff and their commitment to be
Absolutely.
offering, you know, different options for kids. That there are as many as there are, yeah. And it's super exciting that there will be more because it's just not easy to do. And a master schedule as small as ours.
I have a question as well. So of those who are taking the AP classes, do we know the percentage that are taking the test
Oh, yeah,
or not taking the test?
Oh, that's a good question.
it's a good question. It's a big majority, but not everybody.
Yeah.
And there's reasons too.
It's so stressful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I was just curious about that.
It's the majority there, maybe it depends on the course. In some of the courses, like AP Computer Science is every other year. And I don't think it's a giant group that actually takes the test, but in AP European History, in AP US History, in AP Spanish, AP Physics, but in those classes, a majority of the students do.
Thank you.
Do we know how many like college credits are earned through this every year?
A year, so I think and I'm working for my own, like, work with my own kid. I believe, and please correct me if you have different experience, that if a student has passed, say, AP psychology, they get a credit for the psychology, like Psych 101. I think.
I think
Yeah,
it,
Which is 3 credits.
It's like, certain colleges have certain requirements, so like some have higher scores required. And they
Okay.
have like certain class credits that is available to certain AP classes.
Yeah. so depending on your score and then depending on the college, they
Yeah.
might award different credits. So it could very well be that if you have a passing score, psychology is a great example, that it might be worth 3 college credits because it would take the place of a Psych 101. If you had a score of a 4 or a 5, and maybe at a different college, it would be worth more credits or fewer. But it depends on the test that's taken and then, yeah, your score and certainly the college, yeah.
Great, thank you for that information.
Thought you would be.
Yeah, it's really good news.
It's great.
Great.
Okay, and the next topic is as exciting, maybe not as exciting, but in terms of like winding down or getting closer to the finish line. And that's a bond update. So in terms of the monthly update, we're on budget, on schedule, within scope. As time kind of ticks down closer and closer, right? I don't know if I get more or less nervous. I think it depends on the day in terms of, August 25th. Staff is back and things need to be ready to go. And so progress, there was lots of progress last week. I'll be really, really hopeful for this week as well. But in terms of what that looks like at St. Mary's, you'll notice even if you drive by that, most of the painting is done on the outside. There's still some painting work to be done on kind of that highest part. The ephes has all been finished and completed. Painting on the outside doors as well. The fence along surrounding the swale should be getting done. When I went by earlier today, it was almost there. Inside should be ready for wax to go down on the floors if it hasn't already gone down. And so that is a kind of a marking point because we just know it'll be and maybe that's Wednesday. Because it'll have to cure for 3 days, and then if we leave the weekend, we can move some furniture. So that's another kind of tipping point where I'll know like, okay, that part is done. The secure vestibule, really it's just the finishing, and then painting. All of the walls on the inside have been like sanded and prepped. Looked at that on Friday, so ready for paint. So getting really close, and at the end, it will be, finishing, moving furniture, and then getting things cleaned kind of top to bottom for staff to come back on the 25th. For Mam's flat roof, those parts are nearly done. Gutters were being installed. The security fence also being installed. I should back up on St. Mary's, and I think I've mentioned this before, the landscaping for the swale won't happen until October. We'll wait until the natural rainy season here to water the plants, they don't die. So that piece is still out there. And then headed back to Mam's, some of the gates, they were great in terms of saving some of the old ones, but some of the new gates won't be in until later, and so not all of the gates for that will be installed right away. I think it will be delayed, but most of it will be finished. And then pulling security access, right? Like, I think they pulled most of the wire for both the middle school and maybe the elementary, but there's still lots of work in terms of that. Let's see, what else? JFK windows are complete. The restrooms, those are being wrapped up. I think all of the hardware has been installed. They're pretty close to done. Painting exterior, lots of progress. I don't think they're finished, but I think they're pretty close to done as well. We have, after the construction is finished at both the middle school and elementary school, those schools will be cleaned top to bottom, and that will be an outside company that does that, so that our staff can focus on the high school, and because we will need more than a handful of people, right? In a 2 days time, it will need to be full crews that kind of go in, and so I feel good about the plan that we have to make sure that that's done, and it will be probably a little different than you know, a typical year for sure. The one thing that I know will be happening after school starts is the elementary school hallway, kind of the laminate that will go up. FRL is what they call it. That has been ordered, but it won't get here in time for that to happen. So that will happen on a swing shift, and that will happen over the course of probably a few weeks, sometime in mid to late September. So that piece will be hanging out there as school starts. So that and the planting are kind of the two things that I know will have some lingering kind of, as the punch list will as well. Like, I'm sure we'll get in and we'll find the things, and the punch list will happen through the fall. But in terms of like major things, it's those two things. I think we have some pictures that honestly, oh, nope, I guess the pictures are last. Honestly, some of the pictures will be out of date just because there's already been more progress this week. In terms of the budget, yep. So one of the conversations that started at the Bond Oversight Committee had to do with the bond program, the dollars that were committed, and the budget that we have. We're going to have some funds there that committee will have to have a conversation around projects that originally were on the list that it was decided we might not have enough for, and or other infrastructure projects where we feel like systems are fine. They're not at the end of life right now, but we think they may be in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, right? So what are those systems? And what are the items that in the foreseeable short future may be a problem? What I want to avoid is, you know, having all of this work done, which is great, and in 3 or 4 years, something happening, not having the funds to do it and feeling like, oh, you know, we had all of this bond work, why didn't we take care of X, Y, and Z? It's the future is unknowable, that's impossible to know. But if we do have funds, and it looks like we will, probably in the neighborhood of $1 million, maybe a little bit more. What are the projects that we deferred? And then what are the major ticket items where we think it's not completely at end of life, but it will be in the next few years? And then I'd just like to take a look at those systems to evaluate whether or not it would be feasible to either repair or replace things that we think that may be true for. And there are some major infrastructure systems that warrant looking a little closer at. So that's part of the conversation that the Bond Oversight Committee will start to have when it comes to budget. And of course, any of those things would be for next summer. Certainly the bigger things. Let's go through some pictures and then I will end with our last part. So again, some of these will be outdated, like the self-adhered membrane installation. You can't even see that anymore. Like all of that is finished, just needs to be painted. Certainly the new carpet is still new and looks just like that. Let's see, oh, the floor. So that is when they first put the floor down, the walls on the side look much better now in terms of being, you're right, sanded, ready for paint. The vestibule, it looks great. The storefront, those windows look great. That will be exciting. Let's see what's next. So manned security fencing, flat roof work. Those still are true. And then JFK, yeah, the windows, and some new painting inside.
The library space is so pretty.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. Yeah, windows make a big difference. I think the last part of the bond, and I know you all got notification, I think in the weekly update, but just as a reminder, the project manager for us with OTAC has changed. And so Bob Collins, who was, I think, on the project in the beginning maybe, and has kind of been all along in terms of like, as far as I know, being on emails and things that I can see, is taking over as the project manager these last couple of weeks to kind of get us over this finish line. And so that was something that went out in the weekly update, and then our bond oversight committee, got an email today, but, you know, that's out there, and I would say, I think I would be, more nervous if we weren't so close to the end. For me, at this point, it's just kind of focusing on what do we need to do, to get this finished? And what does it look like for the next few weeks, because folks are coming. And they're gonna come back to some great spaces, so. That's my hope. Questions?
I got a question, enrollment. How does like the number of transfers in or new kindergartners or new people to the district?
What does it look like?
Yeah,
I think we'll know more registrations this week,
okay.
for 2 days. When we looked at some of the numbers that we had kind of rolled over from last year, and then looking at transfers, in the grade levels that I've looked at or have talked to principals about in terms of the numbers, it's always been more than what we had, with the exception of one grade level. And so I think we'll know more at registration, like the grades that we rolled over to the next grade, it has that, you know, did everybody register? Is everybody showing up? We've probably had maybe 7, maybe more, 9 transfers in. It'll be interesting to see how many transfers out, probably as many. I mean, I think it might be close to a wash, but we'll know more. Kindergarten's always a little harder to predict, in terms of just the numbers. So I'm hoping we'll know more after this week, but for kinder, it will sometimes be the week kinder starts, right? You know, we're always happy to have all of them, and a few of them are surprises.
I think we were going to do transfers out. We're gonna create like an interview while you're transferring out or whatever. I thought there was some conversation at the end of last year that we were gonna just not automatically transfer out. You were gonna interview or something. Are we gonna do that?
Not necessarily an interview, it was just a kind of like a feedback form that Rachel created. That I give to anyone who's, and half the time people, I mean, they don't have to. Not required to fill it out, so some people fill it out, some people don't, some people just put the reason in the little optional area on the form. I mean,
I would like to push on that a little more.
We can't require people to let us know why.
Yeah.
No, but
So-
you can interview somebody and in past, you could have that they come in and they have to talk to somebody and
I
they
don't
could.
know that we, I
Well,
don't know.
I think, you know, with the experience of, I'm just gonna say this goes back many years, but my granddaughter, when she transferred out, had to talk to the superintendent. I mean, so it was not an automatic transfer out, it was a conversation and a reason why. And you don't have to say, you could just sit whatever, but it was more or less, I'm just trying to figure out how you keep more people.
Yeah.
You know, or just know why, is it because it's private school or whatever, but that would give us another indicator of. You know, what's going on, that's all.
I would say, and I think they're probably somewhere in the middle, you know, Sherry's right in that you can't require.
You can't require
or
people to do
information,
that.
but we could certainly, one of the things that might be interesting is to take the transfer requests out. And there's a box that essentially asks for the reason, and to be able to start kind of collecting that data to categorize what does it look like, right? In terms of, you know, it's because there are more offerings somewhere else, it's because they feel like either there was an issue at school, an issue with friends, an issue.
Yeah,
But it would be interesting to collect the data and start to categorize it to even look.
I would
What
like
that
something
looks
like
like.
that to
Yeah.
begin to happen
Yeah.
versus, you know. Just thinking
Yeah.
of trying to keep enrollment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to quantify it, right? So for
Yes.
us to know, okay, if we had 20 transfers out, I'm just making this up, and half of them were because of this, and you
Yes.
know, a quarter were because of this, it would just give us more information about kind of where to start
maybe-
looking.
Yeah,
And
well, maybe there's
things like
something
that.
we can do about it.
And I would just add that having been on the board a while, this is information we ask with every transfer out, and people choose,
I-
and I get the extra step of inviting people in for
Well,
interview and things,
no,
it's just.
no, I get it,
we've been
more of,
consistently
just a-
asking me
but-
for
and
information.
we do categorize where they transfer out to, because that you get your, transcripts are requested, so we do categorize that. So we must know that we have either private school or other school or whatever.
Yeah.
Or no school, and that's the interesting part of what happens to the no schools, do we go back out and, they transferred out, but there's no request for records anywhere. So do we reach back out and see what's going on with them and maybe reach back to get them come back out? Just looking for any way we can get. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you Superintendent Harlan for your report. All right, any board member reports?
I was just gonna share some good news that I heard in talking with Jack Palek, who's on the city council, and he lives right basically on St. Mary's grounds. He so appreciated the knock on the door when the crews were gonna be working early.
Okay.
He just really thought that was wonderful to see, and he
I'm
was very
glad,
pleased.
it wasn't, not someone trying to sell us something.
Yeah.
Like that.
He was very complimentary.
Oh,
of
that's
stuff
that's
being
kind.
taken.
I'm glad it was received as it's intended, yeah.
Yes, so that was nice.
Great news. Thank you. Anything else?
I appreciate the newsletter, the bond projects newsletter. That's really, it's gonna be online. Is there another way that is it going out how else?
Yes,
It's really good.
Jill has been
Nice
doing a
job.
great job trying to figure out other ways, and so our town.
It's going in our town, the September
Perfect.
first.
Great.
September 1, so it'll go
Thank
to
you.
every person in Mount Angel.
Oh, perfect,
Mhm.
thank you.
And then we'll also have the newsletter in English and Spanish in the offices and different places, but
Wonderful.
yeah, everyone will get a copy. And so that's thanks to Jill.
Good job, thank you.
Writing down. Yeah. I think it's important for the community to be able to see what their significant
Absolutely.
investment, the results of that, and oftentimes. I think that's an easy part to miss, but I want them to know what all of their good pond dollars have done. Especially when a lot of the projects were infrastructure and it's not necessarily that you got like a new school, so I think it's probably even more important then.
Anything else? All right, moving on. Public forum, not seeing anybody online or in person. Moving on, we have no action items this month, but we do have a discussion around our board policy first reading, the graduation requirements. So Superintendent Harlan or our lovely policy committee, would you like to talk about this policy?
So this is a policy the board has seen before and actually has approved. We got some feedback around, in the policy, it talks about regular attendance. And so OSBA said, hey, you guys in your policy need to define what that means within this policy. And so the recommendation that you have in front of you for a first reading is permissive in terms of a certificate of attendance. So this is generally for students who don't qualify for a regular diploma, don't qualify for a modified or an extended diploma. They're often our students who are in programs until they're 21 and have attended school and have done their program, and who we want to celebrate as having accomplished something good and the completion of their education. And so the kind of regular attendance in this regard doesn't count excused absences that might be for our students who are medically fragile or for other types of absences, and it's the most permissive to make sure that our students who are often facing a lot of barriers get recognition for their accomplishment, which is having attended their schools and programs. So the policy is exactly the same. There's a footnote in there that defines what attendance means for a certificate of attendance.
Any questions from the board? Nope. All right. All right, one thing before we adjourn, just a quick reminder, next Monday from 4 to 6 here at the district office, we have a work session with OSBA on the superintendent. Something that will be brought up there is we are going to need to do our 6 hours with them to if for any reason, we do not have a superintendent for a year. They do the superintendent search for free. And in order to meet that contract requirement, we have to fulfill all 6 hours. So come to that work session in mind that you have to schedule those and what we want to kind of focus on those next 4 hours. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay, meeting's adjourned.